Australia is a rich country that deserves a respectful view from its early days of birth. This video will bring more awareness of the country called Australia beyond the genocide produced by the British colonization. Midnight Oil is an Australian rock band known worldwide for its driving hard rock sound, intense live performances, and political activism, particularly in aid of anti-nuclear, environmentalist, and indigenous causes. Midnight Oil has always led by example in a unique way with music that is powerful, inspiring, entertaining, and very much endearing. Looking back to Australian history, we need to look carefully to the richness of one of the oldest regions on Earth. About first 4 billion years, Australia was already born. The native Aboriginal arts, their settlements, the culture of the Aboriginal people, and the strong connection between Earth and people's souls. The dream stories, their respect for nature and Earth, and the long period of devastating suffering caused by British colonizers who decided to repress a whole ancient culture because of their desire to have control over native people. The pre-colonization history of indigenous people in Australia dates back to 60,000 years ago and gives us a relevant and outstanding amount of anthropological information, such as a rock shelter used by people about 60,000 years ago, a rock engraving which was discovered in South Australia 45,000 years ago, a man from Lake Mungo who was found buried in a shallow grave about 30,000 years ago, and the Devil's Lair Cave, first occupied 39,500 years ago, as well as the earliest evidence of ritual cremation in the world was found in Australia. It was in 1400 when the first landing on Australia's shore occurred by merchants and explorers from India and China. In 1600, Spanish explorer Pedro Fernando de Quiros named a small island along the northern coast of Australia del Espírito Santo. However, after William Dampier, a British captain, James Cook, claimed possession of the east of Australia, raising the British flag at Possession Islands. Initially, Aboriginal native people who had always been nomad and had a strong connection and dependence on nature resources such as food, water, and shelter did not oppose to new colonizers. However, this changed when the British started to mistreat them and take everything from them, including their resources which kept them alive, as well as their lands and family. Those were very bloody times. Aborigines were removed from their lands and placed on far settlements. They were forced to be taught and get dressed as Western people. Their identity was torn apart. The Pintupi were systematically removed from their traditional lifestyle and home beginnings in the 1940s. While the Pintupi represented the largest language group, conditions were so bad that a lot of them died from treatable diseases. But this forcible government relocation didn't just remove people from their lands, it also forcibly removed thousands of Aboriginal children from their parents. These children were dispersed into separate government and religious constitutions and foster care. They became known as the Stolen Generation. Between 1788 and 1901, Maguire, governor, gave also permission to shoot those Aboriginal people who would offer resistance against them. Aboriginal culture and beliefs were being destroyed and mutilated very fast, provoking a devastating suffering effect on human beings, which would last hundreds of years. From 1900 and during the next 60 years, White Australia policy was introduced, leaving aside Aboriginal people who were excluded from many human rights such as social security benefits, the right to vote, maternity allowance, and right for children education. Aboriginal people were used as slaves working in gold mines. Although in 1960 started a period of recognition and understanding, Aboriginal people were still under very poor conditions and inadequate wages. In 1967, the first referendum proposing amendments to remove constitutional discrimination against Aboriginal people took place. Midnight Oil band used its song Beds of Burning as an active political protest to reclaim and give back to Aboriginal people their lands, their right to live there, to bring back together to our families, to heal the national Aboriginal identity and to ask for an apology from the government. The song's purpose was to speak out loud as if it was the voice of the stolen generation, reclaiming to be paid back for the profound damage caused within their culture, land, families, and identity. 2 centuries of dispossession and maltreatment have left deep scars. May they all perform this song at the close of the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games to a world audience of billions of people, including Prime Minister John Howard, the current Australian government, who refused to make a formal apology over the stolen generation. The entire band was dressed in black with the word "sorry" printed on their clothing, reclaiming the so long-awaited apology. It was on 13 February 2008 when Prime Minister Kevin Rudd moved a motion of apology to Australia's Indigenous peoples with a specific reference to the stolen generation. The motion honored the Indigenous peoples of this land and reflected in particular on the mistreatment of those who were stolen generations, for the pain, suffering, and hurt of this stolen generation, their descendants, and for the families left behind. The government said the so long-awaited sorry.